First, though, people campaigning against fines for some school absences are set to deliver a 250,000 signature petition to Downing Street today. Among them will be Heidi Maver, who is from Wakefield and is the author of a book called Your Child is Not Broken, Parenting Your Neurodivergent Child Without Losing Your Marbles, which has been described as a must-read book for parents of neurodivergent children. Now, she'll be joining the founders of the No School Fines campaign and other lobbyists in delivering this petition. And Heidi joins us now. Morning, Heidi.
Morning, Rima. How are you?
I'm really well. How are you doing?
I'm all right. Yeah,
You've
I'm good. To say that it's 7:30 in the morning, I'm surprisingly sprightly.
Well, yeah, and also you've got a lot going on, let's be honest, because, first of all, tell us about this petition. What is it about? Where has this come from?
So the petition launched just over 12 months ago by two parents who actually met in my online community. I run a community for parents whose children and young people have barriers to attendance. And what was becoming and has become increasingly common for parents of children with barriers to attendance is that they are faced or threatened with fines and prosecutions. And so both of those parents had that experience, and there were conversations happening about what can we do about that. And they launched a petition. Initially, it was a very small Change petition, but Change actually picked it up and have helped them to promote it. And as of this morning, we're on 265,000 signatures. So,
Wow.
and basically, we're calling on the government to stop fining parents of disabled children because their children are not able to be in school, which is really common. And I have emails and messages from parents in my community every single day telling me that they've had fixed term penalty notices or threatens to prosecute.
Listening to this as someone who, I don't have kids, but it seems like it should be a common sense thing. If a child is struggling and isn't at school for a reason, why
Yeah.
would they get a fine?
I mean, like everything, it's pretty complicated. In essence, fines are at the discretion of head teachers. But even though the Department for Education have released guidance saying, this should be an absolute last resort, head teachers are under an incredible amount of pressure. We've seen in the news this week about the terrible situation with a head teacher ending their own life because of an Ofsted report. And actually, Ofsted require particular levels of attendance in order to grant outstanding Ofsted ratings. So it's all tied up in the requirement from the higher ups to have, head teachers pursuing families whose children are not in school for whatever the reason. And we also don't have any official way of tracking children who are off school because of mental health difficulties. So there's no absence code for mental health, which means that often we're asking schools to authorise as illness, and then their policy means that they need a sick note, and that's not always appropriate for children who are in a mental health crisis.
Right. If you're just joining us, it is BBC Radio Leeds. Rima here with you. I'm joined now by Heidi Maver from Wakefield, who's campaigning against fines for some school absences. They've got this petition, 265,000 votes. They're taking it down to Downing Street today. I've mentioned this word a couple of times now, Heidi, neurodivergent. For anyone who's listening at the moment and isn't 100% sure what that means or what that refers to, give us an idea.
So neurodivergence covers basically anyone whose brain does things a little bit differently. So that will include, if we're talking about children and young people, it will include children who are autistic, ADHD, dyslexic, dyspraxic, dyscalculic. It also includes people whose brains do things differently because of mental health, or who may have things like a Tourette's disorder, or maybe who have acquired brain injuries or brain injuries that mean that their processing is different. So basically, it's anyone whose brain is considered not typical, which is actually a lot of us. So
yeah, I'm sure there are so many people that have something or another that means that their brain isn't typical, if that's the word that we're using. And when we talk about kids staying off school for those reasons, there must be parents and carers out there that feel that they're being punished doubly for
absolutely.
keeping their kids home.
Yeah, it's estimated that at any one time there's up to 500,000 children who are absent from school who are neurodivergent, and their absence is due to their neurodivergence. So either their needs aren't being met in school, or they're waiting for assessment, or they're waiting for a place in school, or they're in mental health crisis because they've been trying to manage in a setting that isn't appropriate for them or isn't suitable. And it puts an incredible strain on parents. And like I say, we speak to parents every single day who tell us that, I personally have an experience of a senior leader within a school telling my son that if he didn't get himself into school, that I would go to prison. Not in the least helpful when you've got a child who's deep in mental health crisis and is suicidal, and that's the last thing they need to hear. So we're really campaigning very hard for this to be brought to the table. We're engaging with people at Westminster and in Whitehall, and we feel it's really important these conversations are had, because it's some of the most vulnerable learners that are suffering, and their families.
You're talking about having these conversations and having them in the highest rooms in the country. Do you feel like you're being heard? Do you think that this petition is going to make a difference?
I feel like we're beginning to be impossible to ignore. So we've been doing quite a lot of lobbying over the last 12 months. The team at Square Peg, who are an incredible lobbying organisation, have been working on this for several years. They've been established for, I think, 11 years. This has been something that is not new within the education sector. We've had some really good conversations with individuals within the House of Commons and the House of Lords. We're still trying to get a meeting with the Education Secretary, but we have got some activity happening today whereby we've coordinated an email campaign so that as we deliver the petition, we've got thousands of parents ready to press send on emails sharing their personal experiences directly into the inbox of Rishi Sunak and the Education Secretary. So we're hoping that those things combined will mean that we will be impossible to ignore going forward. It's really important stuff. This is the kind of thing that if we don't address, it's not going to go away. We have, thousands of families who have children who are desperate to be in school, and telling them they're going to be fined or prosecuted makes no difference to whether they're able to do that or not.
Heidi, thank you so much for being with us this morning. Just before I let you go, because I know you've got this campaign going on, and I know that, you're talking about, I also know that schools are under such pressure. You mentioned that as well. Teachers are under such pressure for all sorts of reasons. What would you like to see happen? In your perfect world, things change. What happens? What do we see?
So there are three things that us as a lobbying group are asking. First and foremost, we're asking, as part of the Not Fine in School and the Square Peg Collective, for there to be three deliveries. The first one is a scrap of truancy laws. They're Dickensian, they're outdated, they're not fit for purpose. The second one is a mental health code, so that children and young people who are unwell and out of school because of poor mental health, their absences can be recorded. So we have some data on that, because at the moment it's a little bit of a guesswork really in that respect. And the third thing we're asking for is a code of practice around attendance, so that school leaders and teachers have better guidance. We feel like they're left high and dry and they're not sure what to do, and we really need clear guidance for them so they can continue supporting our children in the way that we know that most people in education want to do.
Heidi, thanks again so much for being here this morning. Heidi Maver there from Wakefield, author of Your Child is Not Broken, Parenting Your Neurodivergent Child Without Losing Your Marbles, campaigning against fines for some school absences. They've got all of these signatures, 250,000 signatures on a petition that they're taking to Downing Street today. What do you make of this? Are you affected by this? Maybe one of your children is neurodivergent, and maybe you've been given a fine on days where they haven't been able to go to school. What do you make of this? Have you signed it? Do you back getting rid of something like truancy laws? Is that something that makes sense to you? 81333 on the text. You can tweet me